We're going to start off with Samsaradava Nalalita Loka. It's like the morning program here in one sense. And then we'll be chanting Namaste and 1, 2 things, and then we'll go into class. Samsaradava Nalalita Loka Kanaya Karanaganaganaganaka Samsaradava Nalalita Loka Kanaya Karanaganaganaganaka Tatasya Kalyana Punavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvinda Tatasya Kalyana Punavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvinda Mahavoke Tananitya Gita Paritranyam Surasena Mahaprabhuti Tananitya Gita Paritranyam Surasena Romanchakam Pashutarangabhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvinda Vande Guru Shri Charanarvinda Shri Vigrahara Nityanana Gangadakarma Nirvajanaro Shri Vigrahara Nityanana Gangadakarma Nirvajanaro Yutasya Bhakta Kariyundatoki Vande Guru Shri Charanarvinda Yutasya Bhakta Kariyundatoki Vande Guru Shri Charanarvinda Chaturvidashri Bhagavatasara Shwadmanatirthan Haribhaktasana Chaturvidashri Bhagavatasara Shwadmanatirthan Haribhaktasana Chitaiva Tirthim Bhajato Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvinda Shivarika Madhavaya Madhurya Leela Purupana Madhurya Leela Purupana Shivarika Madhavaya Madhurya Leela Purupana Shivarika Madhavaya Madhurya Leela Purupana Pratikshana Swadhanalokasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvinda Pratikshana Swadhanalokasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvinda Sanjayana Sikera Jaya Libeya Kira Tekaniya Jaya Libeya Kira Tekaniya Daksha Dhanmalavasya Vande Guru Sri Saraswati Daksha Dhanmalavasya Vande Guru Sri Saraswati Yakshadha Harite Namaste Shastre Oka Sata Bhajate Nasati Krishna Shastre Sukha Sata Bhajate Nasati Ketuka Boya Pyeva Tasya Vande Guru Sri Saraswati Vande Guru Sri Saraswati Krishna Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Krishna Prasada Haritato Krishna Prasada Sayam Tuvam Tasyaya Sati Satya Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Sayam Tuvam Tasyaya Sati Satya Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Sri Gauravani Prachare Devasesha Sundavari Astachare Satarine Namaste Gauravani Prachare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
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 Gopi Jana Balabha Giridharadhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari
Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Rajajana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira
Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivajakacharya Ashtotara Satashla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridasa Thakur Ki Prem Se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Sri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Jamuna Maya Ki Tulasi Deva Ki Bhakti Deva Ki Samaveta Bhaktivinda Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Gaura Premanandi Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Brihat Madanga Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Name. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pachari Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastachari Shatari Jai Shri Prabhupada Haribo Hare Krishna. Welcome all today to Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're having this last few days daily Bhagavatam class here in a city called Lyon. So we have internet reception, which we don't usually get it near Mayapur, at least not in the temple room. That was one of the, you could say, one of the special arrangements of the Lord. Also can be used nicely in Christian service. So thank you for joining us this morning. And in the light of the recent happenings in Ukraine, and as you may know, we have thousands of devotees in Ukraine. We're not 100% sure what's going on there. We know many of them are having to move. But I thought we would reflect upon this a little bit with Srila Prabhupada's words, Bhagavatam's words on the general subject matter, which leads up to such events as coronavirus or wars, pestilence, and just general disturbances in society, various kinds of unwanted situations. So this morning we're going to read, beginning with Srimad Bhagavatam, and let me think. If you want to put this on the screen, Rasika, it's the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 5, text 11, 1.5.11. If you want to put it up there, we can read. There'll be a bit of reading from Srila Prabhupada this morning. This is the greatest panacea for those Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiritam Kama Shapaham. those who are suffering in this material world, which means pretty much everybody in the material world, the only panacea for those who are suffering, the only relief for those who are suffering in this world is to hear topics concerning about the personality of Godhead or spoken by the personality of Godhead. Such topics or such subject matters should be disseminated throughout the whole world, and those who do so are the greatest welfare workers. So this is actually the medicine. Peace conferences all will go on. People will have different opinions about the situation, but the ultimate result is the same. The cause of the problem still remains. We may probably give an example. We may move our, we got a boil on one shoulder, you move it, or pain on one shoulder, you move it to the other, but the pain still remains, even if it's eased in one place. It will continually go on. It will be one form or another. And Srimad Bhagavatam explains clearly why. So we'll read this verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 I'll just read it through once. Tadvad Visago Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishlokam Abhadavatyapi Namanyanantasya Yason Nikitani Yat Shrinvanti Gayanti Vinanti Sadavaha. This is a famous verse. Prabhupada, in fact, in the beginning, this Bhagavatam begins the Bhagavatam, its introduction, whatever, with that particular verse. Is very relevant, not just to our present context, but in terms of the presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam as the medicinal cure to bring about a change in the imbalance in society. It was Srila Prabhupada's, when he wrote his constitution for ISKCON, this is the first principle in his constitution, was to teach the techniques of spiritual life in order to cause a change or in the imbalance in the society which we're living in, and thus to bring about peace and unity. There's a very great imbalance in society, and people don't know what's going on most of the time, ignorantly engaging in activities, and thus they get no peace or unity. The Prabhupada wanted to teach the technique. So this is the Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us the techniques of spiritual life. So on the other hand, this is that literature, I think Narada Muni is speaking here. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories, of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation. Narada has already described the nature of subject matters which don't describe the glories of the Lord, subject matters which cause us to become bound up in this material world are like places of pilgrimage for crows. They just cause us to go more and more into, let's say, material implication. But this literature of the unlimited, discussing the unlimited Supreme Lord, is full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Of course, everyone's familiar with Srimad Bhagavatam and probably many of the important reasons why Srimad Bhagavatam should be, let's say, personally lived in our lives and also spread throughout the world. It is a qualification of the great thinkers, Prabhupada writes in the purport, to pick up the best, even from the worst. It is said that the intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stock of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change. And as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures, like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. While preparing this commentation on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. Prabhupada was writing this way back in the early 60s. He was living in Vrindavan. And this is what he writes in his purport. Our neighboring friend, China, has attacked the border of India with a militaristic spirit. We have practically no business in the political field, yet we see that previously there were both China and India, and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived in those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God-fearing, pure-hearted and simple, and there was no question of political diplomacy. There is no cause of quarrel between the two countries, China and India, over land which is not very suitable for habitation. And certainly there is no cause for fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there is propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is the duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world, to do all the supermost good as well as to bring about desired peace in the world. Because India has failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work, there is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart, and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there is a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite the our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all of our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. When there is fire in a house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors, who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing their language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success. When there are too many materialistic activities by the people in general all over the world, there is no wonder that a person or a nation attacks another person or nation on slight provocation. That is the rule of this age of Kali or quarrel. The atmosphere is already polluted with corruption of all description, and everyone knows it well. There are so many unwanted literatures full of materialistic ideas of sense gratification. In many countries, there are bodies appointed by the state to detect and censor obscene literature. This means that neither the government nor the responsible leaders of the public want such literature, yet it is in the marketplace because the people want it for sense gratification. Of course, now that's not even a problem practically. It's the social media whereby people access all kinds of illicit subject matters or polluted subject matters and spend much of their time doing so, even young children. So what do we expect? How can we expect a society which is going to be God conscious, or a society based upon moral principles? It's almost impossible. Under the circumstances, transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activities of the corrupt mind of the people in general, but also supply food for their hankering after reading some interesting literature. In the beginning, they may not like it because one suffering from jaundice is reluctant to take sugar candy, but we should know that sugar candy is the only remedy for jaundice. Similarly, let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing reading of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will act like sugar candy for the jaundice-like condition of sense gratification. When men have a taste for this literature, their hankering after other literatures, which are catering poison to society, will then automatically cease. We are sure, therefore, that everyone in human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it is now presented with so many faults, for it is recommended by such an authority as Sri Narada, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter. Thank you, Rasikananda Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So quite a strong and not just pointing out the anomalies in society, or even pointing out the causes of those anomalies in the sense of sinful activity or godless activity, but giving the remedy also. A compassionate person doesn't just help people who are in a diseased condition, which is part of the, you could say, part of the act, but he also helps them to behave in such a way as to avoid getting diseased again. That is real compassion, or deep, let's say, deeper compassion. And on the spiritual platform, it means to help to release people from birth and death. It's not about making them comfortable in this world. Generally, that's what most people aspire after. But a Vaishnava knows that no matter what position one is in this material world, it may, even if it seems to be a comfortable position, it may come to an end at any moment. Nothing in this world is permanent. It's all shashvatam. It's temporary. And also dukkhalayam, it's full of suffering. So the Vaishnava acts in such a way as to really compassionately help living entities. Now, I like to read a little something, I hope, if I can find it. Just give me a second. Hopefully I can find it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to read you a poem. Now, this is it's not written by a practicing devotee, but it's written by somebody who had an insight into certain aspects of the laws of karma. And he was an English poet by the name George Bernard Shaw. He happened to be a vegetarian by practice. So here's what he writes. It's quite a well-structured poem. And it's very relevant to our present situation. It's not very long. We are the living graves of murdered beasts, slaughtered to satisfy our appetites. We never pause to wonder at our feasts. If animals like men could possibly have rights. We pray on Sunday that we may have light to guide our footsteps on the paths we tread. We are sick of war. We do not want to fight. The thought of it now fills our hearts with dread, and yet we gorge ourselves upon the dead. Like carrion crows, we live and feed on meat, regardless of the suffering and pain we cause by doing so. If thus we treat defenseless animals for sport or gain, how can we hope in this world to attain the peace we say we are anxious for? The cruelty begets its offspring, war. So I think we can gather from that it's quite amazing, actually, that there's not even more turmoil and suffering in the world. These sinful activities which are propagated in our world today they seem to have no limits practically. Man makes their own laws to satisfy our own sensual desires. There's a certain degree of restriction, a certain degree of, you could say, morality, but it's very limited and it's not generally based upon religious principles or spiritual directives. It's mostly based, a lot of it is based on economics. We see now they've introduced in many countries legalization of cannabis, and they're making millions and millions of euros or dollars tax profit on legalizing cannabis. Okay, that's another thing. It's not the worst thing by any means, but the meat industry, huge business, the pharmaceutical business, all connected, by the way, enormous business, and the cigarettes and entertainment world and the liquor. After all, only 8 million people a year die directly from cigarette smoking, nothing very much. And they make billions of pounds and dollars and euros on cigarettes. What to speak of every other aspect of the consumerism which we're subjected to, all unnecessary anarthas in society, all entangling living entities, and all causing sinful reactions in our lives. What to speak of meat eating? Systematic slaughterhouses have been created all over the world, practically speaking, for the satisfaction of the tongue, exploitation of innocent animals, we could say. The same thing applies to children. There, Prabhupada describes our modern education system, not necessarily because of its content, but because of its attitude and its direction, which is to entangle living entities in materialistic life and to identify themselves with the body as a human slaughterhouse, because it defeats the very purpose of human life. People are basing their whole, let's say, directives in life, their decision-making on the false premise that I am this body, whether it's national, international, religious, philosophical, educational, medicinal, or just simply personal, economic, everything, based on this principle, I am the body. So this is the first basic premise, which Prabhupada describes as the most sinful of all. This is the greatest sin, to identify with the body, because everything else comes from that. All other sinful activities emanate from this misunderstanding, I am the body, and then false philosophies like only humans have souls, other creatures don't have souls, they're meant for our exploitation, etc. All kinds of concoctions have come in to society to justify our sinful behaviors. Now I'm going to read another verse. This is from, where's it from? Let me just see. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, also first canto, chapter 10, text number 4. You can put it on the screen if you want to, Rasika. 110.4. I hope it's 110.4. I didn't double check that, but I think it is. And this is I'm not sure who's speaking, it doesn't really matter, but this is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Did you get it there? Yeah, here we go. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. This is during the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira, the pious king of Rajarishi. Only Rajarishis, both materially and spiritually, act for the welfare of others. Purport. The basic principle of economic development is centered on land and cows. The necessities of human society are food grains, fruits, milk, minerals, clothing, wood, etc. One requires all these items to fulfill the material needs of the body. Certainly one does not require flesh and fish or iron tools and machinery. During the regime of Maharaj Yudhisthira all over the world, there were regulated rainfalls. Rainfalls are not in the control of the human being. The heavenly king Indradev is the controller of rains, and he is the servant of the Lord. When the Lord is obeyed by the king and the people under the king's administration, there are regulated rains from the horizon. And these rains are the causes of all varieties of production on the land. Not only do regulated rains help annual production of grains and fruits, but when they combine with astronomical influences, there's ample production of valuable stones and pearls. Because people are so godless nowadays, they really don't understand this principle that God is the supplier. Of course, they somewhat recognize that, but they don't act along that principle. Modern science is trying to find another cause for the creation, etc. And another reason why there are anomalies or sufferings in society because of perhaps, some lack of economic balance or something. Anyway, they're trying to thwart the authority of God and trying to take the Lord out of the picture. They want to make life eternal in this body. They want to play around with the natural arrangement of nature. They want to exploit the universe. The list goes on and on. It's the nature of the demoniac mentality. Grains and vegetables can sumptuously feed a man and animals, and a fatty cow delivers enough milk to supply a man sumptuously with vigor and vitality. If there is enough milk, enough grain, enough fruit, enough cotton, enough silk, and enough jewels, then why do people need economic development in the shape of tools and machines? Can tools and machines supply vigor and vitality to men and animals? Can machinery produce grain, fruit, and milk, or jewels and silk? Are jewels and silk, along with varieties of foodstuffs prepared with ghee, grains, milk, and fruits, not sufficient for man's pure, luxurious, and healthy life? Then what is the need of an artificial, luxurious life of cinemas, cars, radios, flesh, and hotels? Has this civilization produced anything more than the doggish mentality of quarreling individually and nationally? Has this civilization enhanced the cause of equality and fraternity by sending thousands of men into a hellish factory and the war fields at the whims of a particular man? It is said here that the cows used to moisten the pasturing land with milk because their milk bags were fatty and the animals were joyful. Do they not require, therefore, proper protection for a joyful life by being fed with a sufficient quantity of grass in the field? Why should men kill cows for their selfish purposes? Why should man not be satisfied with grains? Why should man not be satisfied with grains, fruits, and milk, which combined together can produce hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes? Why are there slaughterhouses all over the world to kill innocent animals? Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Maharaj Yudhisthira, while touring his vast kingdom, saw a black man attempting to kill a cow The king at once arrested the butcher and chastised him sufficiently. Should not a king or executive head protect the lives of the poor animals who are unable to defend themselves? Is this humanity? Are not the animals of a country citizens also? Then why are they allowed to be butchered in organized slaughterhouses? Are these the signs of equality, fraternity, and nonviolence? Therefore, in contrast with the modern, advanced, civilized form of government, an autocracy like Maharaj Yudhisthira is by far superior to a so-called democracy in which animals are killed and a man less than an animal is allowed to cast votes for another less than animal man. We are all creatures of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord himself is the seed-giving father, and material nature is the mother of all living beings in all shapes. Thus, mother material nature has enough foodstuff, both for animals and for men, by the grace of the mighty Father Almighty Sri Krishna. The human being is the elder brother of all other living beings. He is endowed with intelligence more powerful than that of the animals for realizing the course of nature and the indications of the Almighty Father. Human civilization should depend on the production of material nature without artificially attempting economic development to turn the world into a chaos of artificial greed and love of power only for the purpose of artificial luxuries and sense gratification. This is but the life of dogs and hogs. Quite a powerful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Just pointing out the situation, basically, not exclusively, but generally speaking, the situation of the world that we are presently living in. So we can hardly expect anything auspicious or beneficial from such direction, which the present society is mostly engaged in. And it's very hard to make a change in this situation. And we see that I'll read a little bit something else. This is from, where is this from? No, I don't think I'll read that. Yeah, this is from the first canto, chapter 16, text 34. The Asuras, Prabhupada writes, want to enjoy a life of sense gratification, even at the cost of others' happiness. In order to fulfill this ambition, the Asuras, or the demons, especially the atheistic kings or state executive heads, try to equip themselves with all kinds of deadly weapons to bring about a war in a peaceful society. They have no ambition other than personal aggrandizement, and thus Mother Earth feels overburdened by such undue increases of military strength. By the increase of the Asuric population, religious principles are hampered, with the result that all the people of the world, especially the devotees or the devas, become unhappy to see the anomalies of the Asuric civilization of self-aggrandizement. In such a situation, the personality of Godhead incarnates to vanquish the unwanted Asuras and to reestablish the true principles of religion. This was the mission of Lord Sri Krishna, and he fulfilled it. So this is our situation now. What to do is all very well pointing things out, even pointing out the causes, but what are we going to do about it? Prabhupada had written that it's the business of all Indians, and the problem of the world today is that Indians are not doing it. That's one of the reasons India is usually in a bit of a mess, economically, etc. But they're not doing it. And Lord Chaitanya said all living entities, actually ordered all living entities to take up this mission and spread these fruits of devotional service all over the world for the welfare of all living entities. Bhagavatam is spoken for the welfare of all living entities. Here's our duty. If we want to see any change, it's not a political issue exactly, although that's of course there, and it's an economic issue, and it's a this issue, and it's a that issue, all kinds of, let's say, ignorant reasons may be given for such unpleasant events, which we're maybe faced with at the moment. We don't realize we're faced with them all the time. It's just a matter of where, when, how it's going to happen, because karma works its ways. But it's a wake-up call. And a wake-up call to all of us. The only panacea, the only remedy for the difficulty, whatever that may be, is the practice of dissemination of Krishna consciousness throughout the world. That's the real business. And the compassion of the Vaishnava is to somehow or another find the ways and means to do that. Practically speaking, we see only Srila Prabhupada made that his life and soul in the recent present history of this world, practically speaking, by mass book distribution, by arranging Rathayatras everywhere, by propagating the chanting of the holy name in every town and village, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted. And of course, massive prasadam distribution. And this will actually serve all, but this is the form that the Lord takes in this age. Normally, whenever there's such anomalies, we see here, Prabhupada mentioned that in that purport, when before the Lord appeared, the demigods, Lord Brahma, they all approached the Lord, who's in Vaikuntha planet within this material universe. They approached him and they begged for his help because Mother Earth was so distressed by the overburden of so many materialistic demoniac leaders, kings in those days, today's so-called governments or leaders in other areas, overburdening the earth, exploiting the earth, thinking the earth is nothing but a lump of matter that we can do whatever we like with. Even they are feeling the pinprick in the form of climatic changes and various other aspects of, let's say, unwanted effects of their ignorant, sinful behavior. They're also experiencing this now to a certain extent, even themselves. But they still don't know the real solution to all of this. It's not even an adjustment to how we exploit the world, which perhaps certain people think we need to do, to stop using certain types of fuel. But that's not the actual solution at all, because one's still in ignorance, one's still in illusion, one's still exploiting, one's still a criminal. Anyone who thinks we own anything is a thief. Doesn't matter what it is. Even a blade of grass doesn't belong to us. What to speak of countries and people and things on this planet. Not a blade of grass belongs to us. Even our own skin, nothing belongs to us. It is all Ishavasamidam Sarvam Yakinchajagachum. It's the property of the Lord. It belongs to him. Every single thing should be utilized according to his guidance. It belongs to him. Why is he giving guidance? So that we can get out of this material illusion. We can wake up. So we can wake up. And unfortunately, for whatever reasons may be, ultimately back to envy of the Lord, and it comes out in so many ways as greed and anger and lust and envy and so on. In this world, we're very greedy. We want more and more and more. We think the solution is to get more. Like the fever, you've got a fever, and the solution is to increase the fever. I want more fever. Yes. How much is your fever? Mine's 105. I want 106. We don't realize what we're doing. Like stupid children don't realize what they're doing, causing their own problems, basically. And there's no guidance. There's guidance, but they don't take it. They try to avoid it. They try to stop it. As Prabhupada said, there's systematic propagation to stop the spreading of Krishna consciousness all over the world. In many places, this is going on. Not really. Actually, it's for the benefit of every living entity. For those who are addicted to, say, the God game, they don't like this. They don't like that someone interferes with this business, exploiting. But what to do? We have this golden opportunity to go back to God, to surrender whatever is the reaction, whatever it may be, common sense. We try to spread Krishna consciousness as much as we can, following the footsteps of our previous acharyas, all religions of the world at great risk. We find great preachers of godliness. They've risked their lives. Maybe they're perhaps not teaching the highest truth of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but the general mood of godliness is supposed to have been there. It may be misunderstood or misinterpreted in some cases, but the basic principle of all religion is to bring people to godliness, to bring people to become conscious of the Supreme Lord and to live a life in God consciousness. And the more we progress in God consciousness, the more unification, the more harmonization, the more peace there will be in the world around us, both within our own hearts. And naturally, if we're not satisfied in our own heart, how can we help bring peace or satisfaction in the hearts of others? It's not possible. As long as we're greedy and lusty and so on, then we cannot really help anyone to get released from this material tabernacle. We have to actually ourselves be satisfied within. The peace formula, Srila Prabhupada in 1966 preached this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yagatapanasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Sridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatmamam Shanti Vichajis. We labeled this verse the peace formula, the one who knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, the proprietor of everything, the friend and well-wisher of everyone, and one who knows this can actually gain freedom or from the sufferings of this world, can actually attain peace, peaceful condition. It doesn't mean an artificial one, but internally peace, because there's no more hankering, there's no more lamenting, there's no more looking at this world as an object of my sense gratification. It belongs to Krishna. It belongs to the Supreme Personality of God, and we have to find out how to utilize it. If something belongs to someone else and we decide to use it the way I want, then we're generally classified as a criminal. Maybe as a young child or innocent child, that's another thing. But for an adult, it's considered a crime. So for the animals, there's no reaction. For little children, until they grow up, there's no reaction, we could say. But for adults, for human adults, they're supposed to know better and supposed to act properly. So this morning we are heading off to New Mayapur, and I don't have too much time, but I'm going to ask Rasikananda Prabhu to put one more verse on the board, on the screen rather. I think, and I hope I'm right, it's the 5th canto, text 19, chapter 19, text 9. Can you check that one out and see what it says? 5:19:9. And these are the prayers. Now, one of the most compassionate, let's say, empowered expansions of the Lord is Prahlad Maharaj. You probably heard, I guess everyone's heard of Prahlad, the son of Hiranyakashipu, and how he prayed for his father's welfare, even though his father tried to kill him. And he also appears as Haridas Thakur. Or let's say he appears in the form of Haridas Thakur, or the mood of Prahlad appears in the form of Haridas Thakur. That mood of extreme compassion, even to one's those who are trying to torture one like that. I'm not sure if it's coming up or not. It's not coming, Asika? 5:19:9. Here it is, 5:18. Thank you for correcting me. 5:18:9. The prayers of Prahlad Maharaj to his father, to the Lord, actually. And this is a beautiful verse. Svastyastu vishvasya kalapasidatam jayantu bhutani shivam mitodi manascha badram bhajatada hokshite aveshatang nomatir apyohoituki. Translation: may there be good fortune throughout the universe. This is the prayer of Prahlad and the residents of Harivarsh, where he resides in this universe, for the welfare of all. And may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga. For by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the supreme transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of him. Many points in this verse, which expand a little bit in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. But this is the mood of a devotee. He feels very sorry that not just because people are being put into such intense fear and suffering, as in the present situation in Ukraine or anywhere else, up to that, different degrees, but it's very specific in that case, but because they don't know the solution. And they're not being given the chance to have a solution either. They're being kept in the dark by whatever, all kinds of leaders. We're not just talking of political leaders, all kinds of so-called leaders in society. And no one's innocent in the real reality. We're all a result. Man is the architect of his own fortune, but also misfortune. We don't blame anyone. We have to take the responsibility, but still, nonetheless, it is meant to be the leaders who are supposed to guide people out of this problem. Back to the purport, please. Back to the purport of that verse. The purport disappeared. Here we go. There's a nice purport by Prabhupada. The following verse describes a Vaishnava. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Just like a desire tree, a Vaishnava can fulfill all the desires of anyone who takes shelter of his lotus feet. Prahlad Maharaj is a typical Vaishnava. He prays not for himself, but for all living entities, the gentle, the envious, and the mischievous. Vaishnava is really a friend, even to those who are, just condemning people doesn't do much good. We've got to try to do something to try to help deliver them from their condemned situation. And devotee shows compassion even on the most sinful persons. It's not just those he ascertains are on his party, or those who are ascertained to be acting well, or those who are ascertained, whatever it is, to be religious or something. Make compassion on everyone, the well-wish of all living entities, equal to all living entities. He always thought of the welfare of mischievous persons like his father, Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad Maharaj did not ask for anything for himself. Rather, he prayed for the Lord to excuse his demoniac father. This is the attitude of a Vaishnava who always thinks of the welfare of the entire universe, because it belongs to Krishna. And a devotee feels pain that living entities are separated from Krishna and not bringing pleasure to Krishna. We are meant to bring pleasure to Krishna. And when a devotee sees somebody acting in a way which doesn't bring pleasure to Krishna, the devotee feels pain. Paradukha dukhi. This is his suffering. When he sees other living entities acting in a way to cause their own suffering and not acting in a way to bring pleasure to Krishna. This is the pain of a devotee. Therefore, Prahlad, Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Dharma are meant for persons who are completely free of envy. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays in this verse, Kala Pasidatam. May all the envious persons be pacified. The material world is full of envious persons. But if one frees himself of envy, he can become liberal in his social dealings and can think of others' welfare. Anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness and engages himself completely in the service of the Lord cleanses his mind of all envy. Himself completely in the service of the Lord. And we're not doing it to, we maybe not be doing it completely. We're still having other ulterior motives or other philosophies applied to our so-called devotional service. Anyone who takes up, therefore we should pray to Lord Nrsingadev to sit in our hearts. We should pray, Barhir Nrsinghal Vidaye Nrsingaha. Let Lord Nrsingadev sit in the core of my heart, killing all my bad propensities. Let my mind become clean so that I may peacefully worship the Lord and bring peace to the entire world. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us a very fine purport in this regard. Whenever one offers a prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one always requests some benediction from him. Even pure or Nishkama devotees pray for some benediction, as instructed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his 6 Shastakam prayers. Ainanda tanuja kinkarang patitamang vishame bhavamdo kripaya tava pada pankaja stita duli sadrishang vichintaya. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or another I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. In another prayer, Lord Chaitanya says, Mama janmani janmani shure bhavatad bhaktirahit ki tvahi. Life after life, kindly let me have unalloyed love and devotion at your Lordship's lotus feet. When Prahlad Maharaj chants, Om Namo Bhagavate Narasingaya, he prays for a benediction from the Lord. But because he is also an exalted Vaishnava, he wants nothing for his personal sense gratification. The first desire expressed in his prayer is Svasyastu Vishvasya. Let there be good fortunes throughout the entire universe. Prahlad Maharaj thus requested the Lord to be merciful to everyone, including his father, a most envious person. According to Chanakya Pandit, there are 2 kinds of envious living entities. One is the snake and the other is the man, like Hiranyakashipu, who is by nature envious of everyone, even of his own father or son, even of his father or son. Hiranyakashipu was envious of his little son Prahlad, but Prahlad Maharaj asked a benediction for the benefit of his father. Hiranyakashipu was very envious of devotees, but Prahlad wished that his father and other demons like him would give up their envious nature by the grace of the Lord and stop harassing the devotees. Kala Prasidatam. The difficulty is that the Kala, envious living being, is rarely pacified. One kind of Kala, the snake, can be pacified simply by mantras or by the action of a particular herb. Mantro Shadi Vashasarpa Kala Keda Nivayate. An envious person, however, cannot be pacified by any means. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that all envious persons may undergo a change of heart and think of the welfare of others. If the Krishna consciousness movement spreads all over the world, and if by the grace of Krishna everyone accepts it, the thinking of envious people will change. Everyone will think of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays, Shivam Mitodiha. In material activities, everyone is envious of others, but in Krishna consciousness, no one is envious of anyone else. Everyone thinks of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that everyone's mind may become gentle by being fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. Bhajatadadhokshaji. As indicated elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam, Savayemana Krishna Padaravindayo. And as advised by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhava Madbhakta, one should constantly think of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then one's mind will certainly be cleansed. Materialists always think of sense gratification, but Prahlad Maharaj prays that the Lord's mercy will change their minds and they will stop thinking of sense gratification. If they think of Krishna always, everything will be all right. Some people argue that if everyone thought of Krishna in that way, the whole universe would be vacated because everyone would go back to home, back to Godhead. However, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this is impossible because the living entities are innumerable. If one set of living entities is actually delivered by the Krishna consciousness movement, another set will fill the entire universe. Hare Krishna. So this is just, you could say, an outline of certain aspects without going into very much depth on any particular area, but we can see what the real responsibility of human life is. It's far, far removed from modern concept of responsibility in human life. It's wholly and solely meant to develop or awaken the consciousness of loving Krishna. And the Krishna consciousness movement is meant for that purpose. Because as one develops one genuine love for Krishna, and naturally the love for every other living entity will grow, because every living entity is Krishna's part and parcel. If I say to you, I love you, and I take a knife and cut off your finger, what will you think? You will definitely not feel that you love me, that's for sure. In fact, it will be an act of hatred, an act of violence towards me, a punishable act of violence. But that's what's going on. A Vaishnava sees everyone and everything belonging to Krishna. To have it cut off from Krishna is very most sinful. So they act to try to reconnect. Yoga means to reconnect everything to Krishna. What yoga is. And unfortunately, yoga nowadays has become a physical exercise to maintain one's separation from Krishna rather than connect with him. Or some speculative philosophy that there is no God, or I'm God, or something or other like that. All these are results of envy of Krishna. It's not a question of closing down, so that leaders may do, but the essential feature is a change of consciousness, not just an external change. We all have seen that. You change your government from one to the next, and nothing really benefits or improves. Just another form of suffering, another form of craziness. So the real solution is to conscious change. Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord has appeared in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. He's appeared in the form of Nam Prabhu, the holy name, in order to help evoke this change of consciousness. And Prabhupada said, even I think if there's 1% of the world becomes Krishna conscious, the whole world would change. So at least we can try ourselves to be a part of that 1% and to do something to help, not cause problems, but to actually bring about solutions in society, not just in society, but solutions to the spirit soul's bewildered condition which we find ourselves in, wasting our time in this material world and wasting others' time, causing no end of, suffering and misery and anxiety and fear and what have you, all based on ignorance, all based on forgetfulness of our relationship with Krishna. As Krishna conscious movement, practically speaking, its only purpose is to remind each other of our relationship with Krishna. And no matter what we are in society, everything can be adjusted. It doesn't have to have a physical adjustment. That may be there in some cases, but ultimately, if everyone becomes connected with Krishna, everything will become adjusted accordingly. There will be no shortage of anything. People will not exploit each other. There will be no hoarding and so on, no cruelty, and so on and so forth. No envy or hatred of other living entities. Meat eating is envy because we want to enjoy the body of another living entity. There's extreme envy to the point where we're willing to murder the person to enjoy their body. Life of a vampire, basically. And so I'm going to have to finish there and wish you all the best. Let's please not just pray on the mundane platform, please, but to help people may wake up to reality and not just remain in some false identity of thinking I'm a Russian, I'm a Ukrainian, I'm a NATO man, or whatever they think they are. These are all as long as that's there's no solution to the problem. None. It has to have some Krishna consciousness in order to evoke a change here. Krishna conscious leadership. As we have democracy, Prabhupada said, even if the majority of people take up Krishna consciousness, it will bring about a change, because modern society supposedly, anyway, votes in the leaders. They have no one to blame. They're the ones who voted them in if it's a democracy. They sometimes complain like anything in America, but they voted them in. As the Prabhupada says, you're a third-class man, or 10th-class man. votes in an even more unqualified person. They don't know what their wealth, what is really in their welfare. They don't really know, who they are. So how can they do anything of any value? Hare Krishna. Okay, so thank you all very much. And maybe we can take one question if there is one or two. All right. If there's anyone left, maybe there's no one left there. I think we've all gone out to try to preach Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. This is Lord Chaitanya has brought the weapons. We worship the Lord who is accompanied by his weapons. We have our Shastra. There's a Shastra, the weapons of this material world, guns and missiles and bombs and what have you. But we have a much stronger weapon, the weapon of Shastra, scriptures. So we should try to distribute these scriptures widely and more widely and more widely, and we should try to apply them to our own lives more and more also. We'll become armed with yoga, stand and fight. Krishna says to Arjuna, yoga is knowledge of the truth. With yoga, stand and fight. Hundreds and thousands of Sankirtan parties going out all over the world chanting the holy names, or even on social media, everywhere the holy name should go on. Books or the knowledge within the book should be disseminated at ever increasing rates all over the world, only counteracting effect to the present dilemma or any dilemma in this material world. We have a comment or a question here. How can one, Haribol Martin, how can one recognize if he should stay in his position and bring Krishna in his life or give up mundane things, etc.? Hope it makes sense. How can we ascertain what is to be? Everything, as we know, of course, Lord Chaitanya's teachings explained by Rupa Goswami, Nabanda Krishna Sambhane Yukta Varayachite. Everything can be used. It's a matter of finding out how it can be used in Krishna's service. But however, not everything can be used by everyone. Certain people have different natures and different conditionings, etc., different karmas. So we have to find out what is there. We don't have to, but it is useful to know what one's nature is to some degree. Very hard to ascertain in this Varna Sankara Kali Yuga. In most cases, we've been so jumbled up from childhood to not really know where we fit. We've got so many mixed karmas. It's not very black and white in many cases. So therefore, the Lord has given this specific, there's like a general medicine, universal medicine, and there's specific medicines. I don't know in the medical world, but they may have sometimes general medicine, but then they have to get more specific with the individual to go into the degree or the nature of their sickness. But the general medicine is given here, the Mahamantra, the chanting of the holy name is general medicine for everyone. Chanting of God's holy names, general medicine. The result of that is if we actually chant the names, and the more we chant those names, and the more we chant with a little bit of feeling, a little bit of attention, our hearts become cleansed. As the hearts become cleansed, we can say even our conditional nature becomes a little bit more clearer. Very hard when we're in a kind of intoxicated condition to know what to do and what not to do. We're not acting in a sober state of mind. So somebody in that condition where we're not sober, and that's where we come to this Krishna conscious movement, to try to take some direction from a sober person. Somebody who actually isn't intoxicated by illusion, subtle, gross material attachments or activities, etc. Someone is above that. We take guidance from them. Now, it will take time, just like, it may not be always pleasant. Prabhupada just mentioned a jaundiced person may not like the taste in the beginning, but this is the cure, to take that medicine of devotional service, given to us by the expert spiritual physician. But it may take some time before the effect, it will take some time before the effects are, they start to take place immediately, but to complete the course, it takes time, that's for sure. When that change of heart really starts to manifest, we start to see things in relationship with Krishna. There are so many mechanical ways to ascertain one's position as well. I'm not going to get into them. The Vedic system uses astrology, it uses the vision of certain persons who have this capacity to see the nature of people, and it's not actually so difficult in a normal society. But in abnormal society like our one, as Prabhupada pointed out, there's so many unnecessary features of modern society. People are not left to live in their natural condition. They're artificially made to feel they should be something which they're not in many cases. So it does become more difficult for people to be peaceful, for people to be stable, whether it's in family life or in their own social life or in their own minds. It's very hard for people to be stable and peaceful because we're living in a very unnatural, very inauspicious situation. So that the holy chanting the holy names and studying the Shastras, associating with devotees, Krishna will point this out step by step. We do go through sometimes a bit of a whirlwind before this happens. But we're still kind of a little independent also. We have a strong independence. We want to do what I think is right, what I like to do. And of course, you can say, well, I don't know anyone who could really tell me what to do. Well, that may be a mixture of, say, difficulties there. It's not by chance that we can't find anyone because we don't really want to surrender quite yet. We're not quite ready for it. Krishna doesn't send it immediately. But step by step, he does through others, through our own failed experiences. We come across some Shastra statement or some devotee who wakes us up with some, powered words, etc. Whatever. Step by step, it will always come immediately. But the main thing is chant Hare Krishna. Try not to offend devotees. Try to serve devotees. Do whatever service we can do. Whatever you can do. It's a great privilege to be linked up with Krishna through devotional service. Take advantage of it as much as we can. Okay. I don't have to finish this morning because we have to drive to New Mayapur shortly and be then getting ready for the upcoming Lord Chaitanya Marathon, Gauranga Marathon. A couple of weeks we're going to try to just do books about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, everybody. If there's anyone there, I don't see anyone. Oh yeah, there's a few devotees there. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.
Bol, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hari
Hare
Bol.
Krishna.
Hare
Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji.
Hare
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.